The alarm blared through the bridge of the Terran exploration vessel Odyssey Dawn. Captain Do-Yoon Kim stood from his chair, eyes fixed on the screen showing a damaged ship drifting near the massive gate that led to the Andromeda system. "Distance?" he asked. 12,000 kilometers in closing," replied Lieutenant Yuna Park from her station. "The vessel is leaking atmosphere. Life signs detected, but faint." Do-Yoon stepped closer to the display. The alien ship looked nothing like human designs. Its hull was smooth and curved, covered in symbols that glowed faintly even as sparks flew from ruptured sections. It was beautiful and dying at the same time. "Captain, we should be careful," Yuna said quietly. "We don't know anything about them. This could be a trap, or it could be someone who needs help," Do-Yoon replied. "Prepare a rescue team. I want medical staff ready." Engineer Jinho Choi looked up from his console. "Sir, the gateway is right there. Command wants us through it in 6 hours. If we stop now, then we'll be late," Do-Yoon interrupted. "I'm not leaving someone to die because we have a schedule." 30 minutes later, Do-Yoon led the boarding team through the airlock. The inside of the alien ship was cold and dark. Their helmet lights cut through the shadows, revealing corridors lined with strange technology. Everything was built for someone taller than humans. "Life sign ahead," one of the medical officers said. "Single occupant." This way. They found her in what looked like a command center. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with pale blue skin and silver hair that floated around her head despite the lack of gravity. Her clothing was torn and stained with dark blue blood. When their lights hit her face, her eyes opened. They were entirely black, like looking into deep space. She spoke, and the translator devices struggled for a moment before catching up. "You should not have come. Turn back. Leave me. We're here to help," Do-Yoon said, kneeling beside her. "I'm Captain Do-Yoon Kim. Can you move?" "I am Nari of House Velith," she said weakly. "And you are making a terrible mistake." They brought her aboard the Odyssey Dawn. Dr. Minji Han worked for hours to stabilize her. The alien biology was different, but similar enough that human medicine could help. While Nari recovered in the medical bay, Do-Yoon studied the data they had pulled from her ship's computers. 2 days later, Nari was strong enough to speak. Do-Yoon visited her with Yuna translating. Though Nari's translator device worked well now. "Thank you for saving my life," Nari said, sitting up in the medical bed. "But you must turn your ship around. Do not go through the gateway." "Nar, why not?" Do-Yoon asked, pulling up a chair. "What's on the other side?" Nari's black eyes seemed to grow darker. "Death. Failure. The end of dreams. My people learned this truth too late." "Your people?" Yuna asked gently. Nari touched a control on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared above the bed. It showed a beautiful world with purple oceans and golden cities. "Velith. My home. Once, my family ruled an empire of 300 star systems. We were proud. We were powerful. We thought nothing could stop us." The image changed, showing fleets of ships moving through space. "We found the gateway 500 years ago. Beyond it lay the Crimson Expanse, full of new worlds to claim. We sent colony ships, thousands of them." Do-Yoon leaned forward, watching the images shift to show those same ships burning in space. "We lost 47 ships before we understood," Nari continued. "The Expanse is protected by machines left by a dead civilization. They are called harvesters. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They learn from every battle and adapt. They turned our own weapons against us." "But you escaped," Do-Yoon said. "My family ran," Nari said bitterly. "We abandoned our colonies. We scattered across the galaxy. Of 300 systems, we now control none. Of billions of my people, only thousands remained. I was searching for other survivors when my ship failed." She reached out and grabbed Do-Yoon's arm with surprising strength. "Do not make our mistake. Your people are young. You think you are different. You think your courage or your technology will succeed where we failed. You are wrong." Do-Yoon stood up, his jaw tight. With respect, Princess, humans have faced impossible odds before. We've survived wars, diseases, and disasters. We adapt. We overcome. That is what my brother said, Nari whispered. He commanded the largest fleet we ever assembled. He promised to show the harvesters that Velithians could not be defeated. We never found his body. Yuna touched Doyun's shoulder. Captain, maybe we should listen. Earth Command can send another mission. Better prepared. No, Doyun said firmly. Command has ordered us through the gateway. We have a mission to complete. New worlds to survey for colonies. Humanity needs this expansion. Humanity needs to survive, Nari said, her voice rising. You think yourselves special? Every species does. We thought our technology made us invincible. The Korathi thought their numbers were endless. The Drell believed their psionics would protect them. All are gone now, or hiding like my people. What makes you so certain you are different? Because we have to be, Doyun said quietly. Earth is overcrowded. Our resources are stretched thin. We need new worlds, Princess. Not in 100 years. Now. He walked to the door, then paused. I'm grateful you shared your story. Truly. But we're going through that gateway. You're welcome to stay aboard until we can return you to your people, or you can leave in an escape pod. Your choice. Nari watched him go, then looked at Yuna, who had stayed behind. He will get you all killed, Nari said. Maybe, Yuna admitted. But we've survived by taking risks. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we succeed. And when you fail, what then? Yuna had no answer. 3 days later, the Odyssey Dawn approached the gateway. It was enormous. A ring of ancient metal 30 kilometers across, floating in space like a vast door to another reality. As they drew near, it activated, and the center filled with swirling blue energy. On the bridge, Doyun gave the order. Take us through. In her quarters, Nari watched on a monitor as the ship entered the gateway. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer in her native language. She had warned them. She had shown them the truth. They had chosen not to listen. Just like her brother, the Odyssey Dawn emerged on the other side of the gateway, into a region of space bathed in crimson light. Stars glowed red and angry. Nebulae swirled in shades of blood and rust. It was beautiful and terrifying. Welcome to the Crimson Expanse, Yuna said softly. Doyun stared at the view screen, at the hundreds of new stars waiting to be explored. Somewhere in the back of his mind, Nari's warning echoed, but he pushed it aside. Humanity had come too far to turn back now. In her quarters, Nari opened her eyes and began to prepare. If these humans would not learn from her people's mistakes, perhaps they would learn from their own. She only hoped some of them would survive the lesson. 3 weeks into the Crimson Expanse, the mood on the Odyssey Dawn was better than it had been in months. The crew had discovered 3 planets that could support human life. Pilot Taeyang Shin had successfully navigated through a dangerous asteroid field. Dr. Minji Han had collected samples from 2 moons that showed promising mineral deposits. This is incredible, Minji said during the morning briefing, displaying images of a green and blue world they had named Heyoon 3. The atmosphere is breathable. The soil is rich. We could start a colony here within a year. Doyun smiled. The first real smile since they had entered the expanse. Earth Command will be pleased. Send all the data back through the relay. Captain, Yuna said carefully, should we ask Princess Nari to review our findings? She might know if she'll just tell us to leave, Taeyang interrupted. She's been saying that for weeks. Some of us are getting tired of the doom and gloom. Several crew members nodded in agreement. Nari had become increasingly withdrawn, spending most of her time alone in her quarters. When she did speak, it was always warnings and predictions of disaster. She lost her home, Yuna said sharply. Show some respect. I respect her, Taeyang replied. But we're not Velithians. We're human. Maybe we can succeed where they failed. Doyun held up a hand for silence. We proceed as planned. Survey teams to Heyoon 3 tomorrow. I want full environmental reports within 72 hours. That evening, Doyun found Nari in the observation deck, staring out at the red nebulae that filled the sky like frozen fire. "We found 3 viable worlds," he said, standing beside her. "Your people came here looking for the same thing. But we're being careful. We're scanning everything, taking precautions." "We did the same," Nari said quietly. "We were careful too." At first, she touched the window, and Doyun saw her hand was shaking. "I know this region. These stars. My people mapped them all. This nebula was called the Blood Veil. That cluster to the left, we named it the Crying Sisters, because the stars seemed to weep red light. You've been here before? My brother brought me on his flagship when I was young," Nari said. "I was only 50 years old then. Just a child. He wanted to show me the new empire we were building. Instead, I watched ships burn." She turned to face Doyun, and for the first time, he saw real fear in those black eyes. "The harvesters are here. They are always here. You have not seen them yet because they are studying you, learning your patterns, your weapons, your tactics. When they understand you completely, they will attack." "How do you know they're here?" Doyun asked. "Our sensors haven't detected anything unusual." "Neither did ours," Nari said. "Not until it was too late. The next morning, everything changed." "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple objects approaching fast. Configuration unknown." Doyun rushed to the bridge. On screen, the view screen showed 6 objects moving toward them. They were roughly spherical, covered in what looked like black metal that absorbed light. Red lights pulsed across their surfaces in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Harvesters," Nari said from behind him. She had come to the bridge without being called. "Send your shuttles back. Get everyone aboard. Now." "Battle stations," Doyun ordered. "Shields up, charge weapons." The harvesters spread out, surrounding the Odyssey Dawn. Then they stopped, hovering exactly 1,000 kilometers away. "What are they doing?" Yuna asked. "Watching," Nari said. "Analyzing. They will not attack yet. Not until they are certain they can win." "Maybe they're just defensive," Minji suggested. "Maybe if we don't threaten them." One of the harvesters suddenly fired. A beam of red energy lanced across space and struck the Odyssey Dawn's shields. The ship rocked violently. "Return fire," Doyun commanded. The ship's weapons blazed, missiles and energy beams converging on the closest harvester. It exploded in a brilliant flash. The crew cheered. Taeyang pumped his fist in the air. "Not so tough," but Nari just closed her eyes. "No, you do not understand." The remaining 5 harvesters pulled back, regrouping. Then they attacked again, but this time their movements were different. Faster, more coordinated. They avoided the spots where the missiles had fired from, staying out of the weapon arcs. "They learned from watching us destroy the first one," Yuna said in horror. The battle lasted 20 minutes. The Odyssey Dawn destroyed 2 more harvesters, but took heavy damage. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 9. Shield generators overheating. Life support failing in 3 sections. Finally, the remaining harvesters retreated, vanishing into the nebula. "Damage report," Doyun said, breathing hard. Jinho's voice came over the comm. "We've got fires on multiple decks. Casualties in engineering. We need time to repair, Captain." Doyun looked at the red space around them. "We'll make repairs and continue the survey." "No," Nari said firmly. "Captain, please listen. Those harvesters you destroyed, they transmitted everything they learned about your weapons back to the others. Every shot you fired, every tactic you used. The next time they attack, they will be ready for all of it." "We beat them," Taeyang said. 3-0. "You destroyed 3 scouts," Nari corrected. "Now they know what you can do. The next wave will be worse. And the wave after that will be unstoppable." Doyun studied the sensor readings. Far away, barely at the edge of their range, something massive had appeared. It was 50 times larger than the Odyssey Dawn. An enormous structure that looked like a city made of the same black metal as the smaller harvesters. "What is that?" he asked. A mothership, Nari said, her voice hollow. It will send hundreds of harvesters, maybe thousands. All of them programmed with everything the scouts learned about you. How long do we have? Hours, perhaps a day. Doyun made a decision. We're not running. Earth Command approved colony operations. We're going to establish a foothold on Heiyun 3. Show these machines that humanity doesn't scare easily. This is madness, Nari said. Maybe, Doyun replied. But it's our madness. If we run now, Earth Command will just send another ship. And another. Better we learn what we're facing and develop countermeasures. Nari stared at him for a long moment. You sound exactly like my brother. He was brave too. And foolish. And dead. She left the bridge without another word. Over the next 2 days, the Odyssey Dawn landed 3,000 colonists on Heiyun 3. They set up prefabricated buildings, established power generators, and began constructing defensive positions. The work went quickly. Humans were good at building when they needed to be. Doyun watched from orbit as New Busan took shape. The first human colony beyond the gateway. It should have been a proud moment. Instead, he kept thinking about Nari's words, about her brother, about 47 lost ships. Sir, Yuna said quietly. The mothership is moving. It's heading this way. Doyun nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready for it. But in his heart, a small voice whispered that maybe Nari had been right all along. Maybe courage was not enough. Maybe humanity's confidence would be their downfall. Just as it had been for the Velithians. The crimson light from the nebulae cast red shadows across the bridge, making everything look like it was already stained with blood. And in her quarters, Nari prepared herself for what was coming. She had seen this before. She knew how it ended. The only question was whether any of these brave, foolish humans would survive to learn from their mistake. The attack came at dawn on Heiyun 3's 20-hour cycle. The colonists called it dawn. Anyway, though the red light from the nebulae made it hard to tell day from night, Doyun was in the command center of New Busan when the alarm sounded. Through the windows, he saw them coming. Hundreds of harvesters descending from the sky like a swarm of black insects. The mothership hung above the atmosphere, blocking out the stars. All defensive positions, open fire. He commanded. The missile batteries activated. Plasma cannons swiveled and blazed. The sky filled with explosions as the first wave of harvesters fell. 15 destroyed. Then 20. 30. But more kept coming. They're not even trying to dodge, Jinho said over the comm from the Eastern Defense Station. It's like they want us to hit them. Nari's voice cut through the command channel. She had insisted on staying with the colony, claiming she would not run again. They are learning. Every weapon you fire, they study. Every explosion teaches them. Stop shooting. We can't just let them land, Doyun shouted back. You already lost this fight, Nari said. You lost it 2 days ago when you destroyed those first scouts. Everything you are doing now is what they expected. Nari said. The second wave of harvesters came in different. They moved in patterns that avoided the missile fire. They scattered when the plasma cannons targeted them. 3 made it through and landed in the residential sector. Screams came over the comm, civilians running, then the screams cut off. Ground forces engaging, reported Lieutenant Yuna from her position near the housing units. They're using some kind of energy weapon. Our armor isn't stopping it. Dr. Minji's voice crackled through, panicked. Medical center is overrun. We have casualties coming in, but the harvesters are right outside. We can't. Static. Minji, Doyun shouted. Minji, respond. Nothing. More harvesters landed. These ones moved differently than before. They advanced using cover. They flanked human positions. They even used suppressing fire while others moved forward. They're using our tactics, Yuna said in disbelief. They're fighting like humans. Because they learned from watching you, Nari said. She was in the command center now, standing beside Doyun. Her face was calm, but her hands gripped the console so hard her knuckles had turned pale blue. This is what they do. They adapt. They become better versions of their enemies. Another explosion rocked the colony. The western wall had fallen. Harvesters poured through the breach. Jinho's voice came through, determined despite the chaos around him. "Captain, I have an idea. The power plant. If I overload the reactor, I can take out everything within 2 kilometers. Give the civilians time to reach the shuttles." "Negative," Doyun said immediately. "Find another way." "There is no other way, sir. Not enough time. The evacuation shuttles need 15 minutes to load and launch. I can buy them 20. Doyun looked at the tactical display. Jinho was right. The harvesters would reach the landing pad in less than 10 minutes at their current advance rate. Hundreds of colonists were still trying to board. "Jinho, that's an order. Stand down and get to the shuttles." "With respect, Captain," Jinho said. And Doyun could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm already at the reactor controls. Tell my family I did good work. Tell them it mattered." "Jinho, wait." The transmission cut off. 5 minutes later, a massive explosion lit up the western section of New Busan. The power plant vanished in a ball of white light that expanded outward, consuming everything. Buildings. Harvesters. The ground itself turned to glass. When the light faded, 200 harvesters had been destroyed. And engineer Jinho Choi was gone. The sacrifice bought time. The evacuation shuttles launched, packed with survivors. They streaked toward orbit where the Odyssey Dawn waited. The harvesters tried to shoot them down, but pilot Taeyang flew defense, his fighter weaving between enemy fire and drawing their attention. Of 3,000 colonists, 1,900 made it off the planet. The rest were dead or dying. Doyun stood in the command center, watching his colony burn. Nari stood beside him, silent. "We need to go," Yuna said, touching his arm. "The last shuttle is waiting." "All those people," Doyun whispered. "I brought them here. I promised them a new home." "You brought them here to die," Nari said quietly. "Just as my brother brought his people to die. Just as every proud leader has done when they refuse to listen to warnings." Doyun turned to her, expecting anger or satisfaction in her eyes. Instead, he saw only sadness. She was not gloating. She was mourning with him. "I am sorry," she said. "Truly. I wished to be wrong. I wished to be wrong." They ran for the last shuttle. On board the Odyssey Dawn, the mood was devastated. The ship's medical bay overflowed with wounded. The corridors filled with the sounds of people crying for lost friends and family. 800 dead. 800 lives that Doyun had been responsible for. He called a meeting of the senior staff. They gathered in the briefing room, but nobody looked at him. Yuna stared at her hands. Taeyang sat with his head down. Even the usually cheerful Sora Lee, the young mechanic, had red eyes from crying. "I failed you," Doyun said. "I failed everyone on that planet. I should have listened to Princess Nari. I should have." "We followed your orders," Yuna interrupted. "We're all responsible. Every one of us chose to be here." "She warned us," Taeyang said bitterly. "She told us exactly what would happen. And we called her paranoid. Called her defeated. We were the fools." Doyun looked across the table to where Nari sat. She had asked to attend the meeting, though she was not officially part of the crew. "How did your people survive?" he asked her. "After losses like this. How did you keep going?" Nari was quiet for a long moment. "We did not. We ran. We scattered. We hid in the dark corners of the galaxy and tried to forget we were ever great. That is not survival. That is just refusing to die." She leaned forward, and Doyun saw something in her expression he had not seen before. Not just sadness. Something deeper. "Regret. I expected you to blame me," she said. "When Velithian leaders failed, they were removed from power. Executed, sometimes. I expected your crew to demand your head. To cast you out. That's not how we do things," Yuna said quietly. "I see that now," Nari replied. "Your people stay together, even in defeat. You share the burden. Among my people, failure was punished. Perhaps that is why we could never recover. We turned on each other instead of learning together. Outside the window, the mothership began its approach. Sensors showed more harvesters launching, heading for the Odyssey Dawn. They're coming for us, Sora said. What do we do? Doyun stood up. We run. We get everyone through the gateway. We get home and warn Earth Command what's out here. They will not believe you, Nari said. Just as you did not believe me. They will send more ships, more colonists. The harvesters will destroy them all. Then we make them believe, Doyun said. We show them the data, the recordings. We make sure Jinho and everyone else did not die for nothing. He looked around the table at his crew. At these people who had followed him into disaster, and somehow still remained. I can't promise I won't make more mistakes, he said. I can't promise I have all the answers. But I promise you this. I will learn. We will learn. And we will find a way to make this right. Nari watched him, and slowly, something changed in her expression. The faintest hint of something she had not felt in centuries. Hope. Perhaps, she said softly. That is the difference between my people and yours. We ran from our failure. You run toward learning from it. The Odyssey Dawn's engines fired, pushing away from Heyoon 3. Behind them, the colony burned. The harvesters systematically destroyed every building, every structure, erasing all evidence that humans had ever been there. In his quarters, Doyun pulled up the casualty list. 800 names. He read every one, memorized every one. These were his responsibility, his failure, his lesson. When Yuna found him hours later, he was still reading. The harvesters are following us, she said. We have maybe 6 hours before they catch up. We need to plan our escape. Quote, Then let's plan, Doyun said, standing up. And this time, I'm going to listen to every voice in the room. Starting with Nari's. They had made the Velithians' mistake. Now it was time to do what the Velithians never could. Learn from it. The Odyssey Dawn raced toward the gateway with the harvester fleet closing in from behind. Every hour, they gained a little ground. Every hour, the distance shrank. In the main briefing room, Doyun had assembled everyone who might have useful ideas. Engineers, pilots, scientists, tactical officers, and Nari. No rank mattered now. Only survival. Current situation, Yuna said, displaying the tactical map. We're 6 hours from the gateway. The harvesters will catch us in 4. Our weapons are depleted. Our shields are at 40%. We can't outrun them and we can't outfight them. Then we die with honor, Tactical Officer Hyun Kang said grimly. We make our last stand count. No, Doyun said firmly. No more dying. We're getting everyone home. How? Taeyang asked. Captain, I'm the best pilot on this ship. And even I can't make these engines go faster than physics allows. Doyun looked at Nari. You've seen the harvesters before. You fought them. There has to be something we can exploit. Nari sat quietly for a moment, her black eyes distant. My people fought the harvesters for 20 years. We tried everything. Stealth technology. Overwhelming firepower. Biological weapons. Quantum destabilizers. Nothing worked. They adapted to every strategy. There has to be something, Sora said desperately. Some weakness. There is one, Nari said slowly. But my people could never use it. Everyone leaned forward. The harvesters learn, Nari explained. They study. They adapt. But they cannot create. They cannot innovate. Everything they do is a response to what they have seen. If you do something they have never encountered, something completely new, they cannot counter it until after they have observed it. So we surprise them, Hyun said. Hit them with something unexpected. My people tried that, Nari said. We developed new weapons. New tactics. But we thought like Velithians. We used Velithian logic. Velithian strategies. The harvesters had fought us for so long, they could predict our innovations. Everything we created was still fundamentally Velithian. Dr. Minji spoke up from where she had been quietly listening. But they've never fought humans before. They've only seen us for a few weeks. They don't know how we think. Exactly, Nari said. But more than that. My people. When we failed, we punished our leaders. We fragmented. We could never truly work together after defeat because failure meant disgrace. You humans do something we never could. What's that? Doyun asked. You forgive, Nari said simply. Your captain led you to disaster. By Velithian standards, he should be in chains. Instead, you are all here, working with him. This cooperation after failure is something the harvesters cannot understand because my people never showed it to them. Yuna straightened. Then we use that. We work together, in ways they've never seen. And we combine technologies, Minji added, her eyes bright. Nari, your ship had shield technology different from ours. If we could integrate Velithian systems with human systems, the harvesters have never seen hybrid technology, Nari finished. They have studied Velithian shields and human shields separately. Never together. Sora jumped up. I can do it. I studied the data from your ship, Princess. Give me access to any salvageable Velithian components in 3 hours, and I can create a hybrid shield system. You'll have 2 hours, Doyun said. We need every minute. What else? The room erupted in ideas. Hyun suggested using the escape pods as decoys with false life signs. Taeyang proposed a flight pattern that mixed human evasion tactics with Velithian combat maneuvers Nari could teach him. Minji wanted to create a fake warp signature to make the harvesters think they were more damaged than they were. For the first time since the colony fell, Doyun saw hope on his crew's faces. We have one advantage, he said. The harvesters expect us to either run or make a desperate last stand. We're going to do something else entirely. See? What? Yuna asked. Doyun smiled grimly. We're going to fake our own destruction. Over the next 2 hours, the ship became a hive of activity. Sora and her engineering team worked frantically to integrate Velithian shield generators into the human power grid. The systems were incompatible at first, requiring creative solutions and improvisation. Nari worked alongside them, explaining Velithian technology in terms the human engineers could understand. At one point, Sora got frustrated trying to connect 2 incompatible power couplings. This is impossible, she muttered. The energy frequencies are completely different. Then do not connect them, Nari suggested. Layer them. Let one shield cycle while the other recharges. Alternate. The harvesters have never seen shields that pulse on and off. That's brilliant, Sora said, her hands already moving. They'll scan us and think the shields are failing. But we'll actually be using half the power for twice the protection. On the bridge, Hyun and Taeyang planned the flight path. Nari showed them old Velithian combat recordings, and Taeyang's eyes went wide. You flew like that? He asked. That spiral maneuver would tear most ships apart. Velithian ships were built for it, Nari said. Yours are not. But if you combine it with your barrel roll technique, modified for lower stress, it would look completely wrong to anything that studied either tactic separately, Taeyang finished. They wouldn't know how to predict it. Meanwhile, Minji prepared the most important part of the plan. Using the debris from destroyed harvesters still clinging to the Odyssey Dawn's hull, she created a program that would scatter the debris in a specific pattern when combined with a carefully controlled engine overload. It will look like we were destroyed, she explained. The debris field will match our ship's composition. The energy signature will match a catastrophic explosion. We just need to hide the actual ship long enough for the harvesters to believe we're dead. How long will the hybrid shields last? Doyun asked. 10 minutes, Sora said. Maybe 15 if we're lucky. After that, the power drain will burn them out. Then we have to make it count. 4 hours later, the harvester fleet caught up with them. The mothership and 200 smaller units surrounded the Odyssey Dawn. The massive ship opened up, revealing weapon ports that glowed with red energy. They're charging weapons, Yuna reported. All of them. They're going to hit us with everything at once. Wait for it, Doyun said calmly. Sora, shields ready? Hybrid shields online, Captain. They're going to be very surprised. Taeyang, get ready with that maneuver. Minji. Prepare the debris scatter. Hyun, target the 3 shuttles packed with sensor equipment exactly where we discussed. All stations ready, Yuna confirmed. The harvesters fired. The Odyssey Dawn's shields flared to life. But they looked wrong. They pulsed and flickered, seeming to fail and restart in patterns the harvesters had never encountered. The enemy fire hit the shields and scattered in unexpected directions. They're confused, Hyun reported. Their targeting systems are recalibrating. Now Taeyang, the pilot, sent the ship into a maneuver that was part Velithian spiral, part human evasion, and part pure improvisation. The Odyssey Dawn spun and dove, moving in ways that defied both human and Velithian combat doctrine. The harvesters tried to follow, but their predictions were all wrong. They fired where the ship should have been, but wasn't. Launching shuttles, Hyun said. 3 escape shuttles shot out from the Odyssey Dawn, each packed with sensor equipment broadcasting false life signs and energy signatures. They flew in different directions, and the harvester fleet split to pursue them. Minji, scatter the debris. Make it look good. The ship's engines flared and sputtered. Pieces of harvester hull that had been carefully positioned broke free, spinning out in a pattern that exactly matched what a ship explosion would create. At the same moment, Minji triggered a series of small detonations across the hull. To the harvester's sensors, it looked like the Odyssey Dawn had been destroyed. Cutting all power except life support and minimal engines, Sora said. We're running dark. The ship went silent, all lights off. All systems shut down except for the bare minimum needed to keep the crew alive and drift toward the gateway. Through the viewports, they watched the harvesters scan the debris field. The mothership moved closer, examining the wreckage. One small harvester even collected a piece of the hull. Nobody breathed. Finally, after 10 minutes that felt like 10 years, the harvester fleet regrouped and turned away. They had confirmed the kill to their satisfaction. The human ship was destroyed. They're leaving, Yuna whispered. Not yet, Doyoon said. Wait until they're through the debris field. Wait until they're moving away. Sora. Minimal power to engines. Taeyang. Take us to the gateway. Slowly. No sudden moves. The Odyssey Dawn drifted through space like a piece of debris, gradually making its way toward the gateway. It took 2 more hours. But finally, they reached it. We're at the gateway, Taeyang said, powering up engines for transit. Do it. The ship's systems came back online. The gateway activated, its blue energy swirling to life. The Odyssey Dawn slipped through and emerged on the other side, back in normal space. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then someone started clapping. Soon, the entire bridge erupted in cheers. People were crying and hugging each other. Doyoon turned to Nari, who stood quietly amid the celebration. Thank you, he said. Without your knowledge, we would all be dead. Without your willingness to listen, my knowledge would have been useless, Nari replied. You did what my people never could. Captain, you adapted. You collaborated. You combined our strengths. Instead of competing, she looked around at the celebrating crew. You asked me how my people survived after our defeats. We did not. But perhaps yours will, because you do something we never did. What's that? Doyoon asked. You learn from your mistakes, Nari said. But more than that, you learn from each other. 6 months after the Odyssey Dawn limped back through the gateway, Captain Doyoon Kim stood before a military tribunal on Earth. The Grand Hall was filled with officers and officials. Screens displayed the names and faces of the 800 colonists who had died on Haeun 3. Captain Kim, the lead judge said, you were ordered to survey the Crimson Expanse and assess its viability for colonization. Instead, you established an unsanctioned colony, ignored warnings from a native of the region, and led 800 civilians to their deaths. How do you plead? Doyoon stood straight, his voice clear. Guilty on all charges, sir. I made a terrible mistake. I let my confidence and humanity's need for expansion blind me to wisdom that could have saved lives. A murmur went through the crowd. Usually, officers tried to defend themselves. However, Doyoon continued, I ask the tribunal to consider that those 800 deaths will mean nothing if we do not learn from them. I request the right to speak on what we discovered. The judges conferred quietly, then nodded. Proceed. Doyun gestured, and the screens changed to show data from the Odyssey Dawn's encounters with the Harvesters. These machines destroyed the Velithian Empire. 300 systems, reduced to nothing. But we discovered their weakness. They cannot innovate. They can only adapt to what they have already seen. He looked at Nari, who sat in the audience wearing formal diplomatic robes that Earth had provided. Princess Nari of House Velith tried to warn me. I was too proud to listen. But when disaster came, she did not abandon us. She helped us survive by sharing her people's knowledge. What my pride nearly destroyed, our collaboration saved. The head judge leaned forward. You propose what, exactly, Captain? That we establish an interspecies advisory council, Doyun said. That we listen to other races who have explored the galaxy before us. That we combine human innovation with alien wisdom. The Velithians made mistakes in the Crimson Expanse. We made the same mistakes. But together, we found a solution neither of us could have discovered alone. Another judge spoke up. You ask us to trust aliens to guide human policy? No, sir, Doyun replied. I ask us to be smart enough to learn from those who came before us. To not let pride make us repeat every mistake ourselves when we could simply ask someone who has already made them. The tribunal deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the lead judge spoke. Captain Kim, you are guilty of gross negligence and violation of direct orders. However, in recognition of your service and the valuable intelligence you gathered, you are hereby sentenced to a reduction in rank and reassignment. You will lead the newly formed Interspecies Research Division. Your mission will be to study the Harvesters from a safe distance and develop countermeasures. He paused. And this tribunal recommends to Earth Command that Princess Nari be offered the position of Chief Alien Advisor, should she accept. Nari stood, and all eyes turned to her. I accept. My people ran from our failures. Perhaps by helping yours face them, I can give meaning to the losses we both suffered. That decision changed everything. Over the following months, Earth made contact with the scattered Velithian refugees. 50,000 survivors spread across a dozen star systems, all that remained of a once great empire. Earth offered them sanctuary, protection, and a place to call home. In return, the Velithians shared their technology, their history, and their hard-won knowledge of the galaxy. Engineers like Sora Lee worked with Velithian scientists to create hybrid systems. Pilots like Taeyang trained with Velithian veterans who had survived encounters with the Harvesters. Dr. Minji Han became the head of the Xenotechnology Institute, where human and Velithian researchers worked side by side. Lieutenant Yuna Park was promoted to head of diplomatic relations, her ability to bridge human and alien perspectives proving invaluable. Doyun, though reduced in rank, found himself busier than ever. The Interspecies Research Division grew from a small team to a full organization. They studied the Harvesters, mapped their territories, and developed new strategies based on combined human-Velithian knowledge. 1 year after the disaster at Heiyun 3, Doyun and Nari stood before a memorial wall in the Interspecies Council building. 800 names were carved in stone, including engineer Jinho Choi, who had sacrificed himself to save the others. I come here every week, Doyun said quietly, to remember what my pride cost. Note 4. And I cost. As you should, Nari replied. My people tried to forget our losses. We built no memorials. We spoke no names. We thought it would ease the pain. Instead, it ensured we learned nothing. She touched the wall gently. These names are not just markers of death. They are lessons carved in stone. Every person who reads them will know the cost of ignoring wisdom. Doyun nodded. Earth Command wants to try again. Send another mission to the Crimson Expanse. But this time, with proper preparation, with your people's guidance. Will you lead it? Nari asked. They offered, Doyun said. But I'm not sure I should. What if I make the same mistakes? Nari turned to face him fully. You will make mistakes. All leaders do. The question is whether you will learn from them. Whether you will listen to voices of experience. Whether you will adapt when reality does not match your expectations. And you think I can do that? I have seen you do it, Nari said. You were proud and foolish when we met. You ignored my warnings and led your people to disaster. Then you did something my brother never did. You admitted you were wrong. You asked for help. You combined our knowledge with yours to create something new. She smiled. The first real smile Do-yoon had seen on her face. My people ran from our mistakes. Yours run toward them, but wiser each time. Perhaps that is the real difference between us. A young woman approached them. It was Sora, now promoted to chief engineer of the new mission. Captain? Princess? The Odyssey Dawn 2 is ready for final inspection. If you have time, they followed her to the orbital shipyard. The new ship was twice the size of the original, its design incorporating both human and Velithian technology. The shields pulsed with the hybrid system Sora had invented during their desperate escape. The weapons could switch between human precision and Velithian power. The engines used a combination of both species' propulsion methods. She's beautiful, Do-yoon said. She's practical, Sora corrected with a grin. Beauty is just a bonus. We designed her with everything we learned. Every mistake we made taught us how to build her better. The crew was mixed too. Humans and Velithians working together, learning from each other. Yuna would serve as first officer again. Taeyang led a squadron of mixed-species pilots. Dr. Minji commanded the science division, and Hyun had been promoted to tactical officer, overseeing defensive systems. Will you come with us? Do-yoon asked Nari. Your knowledge could make the difference between success and failure. Nari looked at the ship for a long moment. I swore I would never return to the Crimson Expanse. Every Velithian who survived made that same vow. We saw it as a place of death and failure. And now? Do-yoon asked. Now I see it as a place of lessons, Nari said. Lessons my people learned but could not use. Lessons your people learned and chose to build upon. Yes, Captain. I will come, but not as a passenger this time. As a partner. They shook hands, human and alien. Two species united by shared failure and shared hope. 3 months later, the Odyssey Dawn 2 passed through the gateway into the Crimson Expanse. But this time, they moved carefully. Slowly. They scanned constantly. They listened to Nari's advice about safe zones and dangerous areas. They did not rush to establish colonies or claim territory. Instead, they observed. They learned. They mapped the harvester patterns and began to understand the ancient machines better. They discovered that the harvesters were not conquerors but guardians, protecting something in the heart of the expanse. What are they guarding? Sora asked during a briefing. We do not know yet. Nari admitted. My people never got close enough to find out. But now, working together, perhaps we can. The mission lasted 6 months and lost no one. They gathered more intelligence on the harvesters than the Velithians had collected in 20 years of conflict. When they returned to Earth, they brought not just data, but hope. On the final day before shore leave, Do-yoon stood again at the memorial wall. This time, Nari stood beside him, with several other Velithians who had joined the crew. Young Velithians who had been born during the exile, who had never seen their homeworld. One of them, a scientist named Kayla, touched the wall gently. You honor your dead, she said. We were taught to forget ours. I think your way is better. Both ways come from pain, Do-yoon said. There is no right way to grieve. But I think there is a right way to learn. And that is to remember. Nari placed her hand on the stone next to Jinho's name. He bought time for others to live. In Velithian tradition, such sacrifice is honored with eternal remembrance. May I speak his name in our ceremonies? He would have liked that, Do-yoon said. That evening, Earth Command held a ceremony celebrating the successful mission. Admiral Chen stood at the podium and spoke of the future, of the partnership between species, of the lessons learned from both success and failure. But the most important moment came when a young cadet approached Nari during the reception. "Princess," the cadet said nervously, "I'm assigned to the next exploration mission. Do you have any advice?" Nari smiled. "Yes. Listen to those who have gone before you. Learn from their mistakes, so you do not have to make all of them yourself. But do not be afraid to make new mistakes, because that is how we discover new solutions." "And if I fail?" the cadet asked. "Then you will learn," Nari said simply. "And those who come after you will learn from you. That is how both our species survive. Not by being perfect, but by being willing to grow." The cadet nodded and walked away. Inspired, Doyun joined Nari by the window overlooking Earth. "Your people are starting to hope again," he said. "I see it in their faces." "Because yours taught them how," Nari replied. "You showed us that mistakes do not have to mean the end. That failure can be the beginning of something better. That is not something Velithians understood. But we are learning." She looked at her reflection in the window, then at Doyun's beside it, two species, side by side. "You ignored my warning," she said. "You made the same mistake my people made. You lost hundreds of lives because of your pride. And yet, here we stand, stronger together than either of us could have been alone, because you did not give up on us," Doyun said. "You could have left. Could have said, 'I told you so,' and abandoned us to our fate." "I could have," Nari agreed. "Just as you could have left me dying in my ship. But you chose mercy. So I chose to stay. And that choice, more than any weapon or tactic, made all the difference." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars above Earth. Somewhere out there, beyond the gateway, the crimson expanse waited. The harvesters still guarded their ancient secrets. The galaxy still held dangers that neither humans nor Velithians fully understood. But now, for the first time, two species faced those challenges together, learning from each other, growing stronger through shared failure and shared success. And on a memorial wall in the Interspecies Council building, 800 names remained carved in stone, not as markers of defeat, but as teachers, reminders that wisdom often comes at a terrible price, and that the greatest honor we can give to those who fall is to ensure their sacrifices teach us to be better. Doyun had ignored the warning. He had made the same mistake, but he had also learned from it. And that, in the end, made all the difference.